The history between the Charlotte Hornets and the New Orleans Pelicans is kinda hard to understand, but their histories are intertwined. The Charlotte Hornets we know today, the team owned by MJ, is not the same franchise we knew in the past. You know, back in the days of Alonzo Mourning, Muggsy Bogues, and Larry Johnson, or even Baron Davis and Jamal Mashburn. They played for the original Charlotte Hornets. This team was created in 1988 by its original founder, George Shinn. Eventually, in 2002, this team would relocate to New Orleans, bringing along their entire history and roster with them, and became the New Orleans Hornets. A few years later in 2004, the Charlotte Bobcats, a brand new franchise, a new expansion team, was created. At this time, the Bobcats were recognized as a brand new team with no history whatsoever. However, that's when it gets messy. In 2013, the New Orleans Hornets, who were the true continuation of the original Charlotte Hornets, changed their name to the New Orleans Pelicans. Then, a year later, the Charlotte Bobcats changed their name to the Charlotte Hornets. They also negotiated a deal with the Pelicans to reclaim the history of the original Charlotte Hornets, the one from 1988 to 2002, before they relocated to New Orleans. Yeah, I know, it's kinda weird. However, in this video, let's take a look at why the original Charlotte Hornets relocated to New Orleans in the first place. What prompted them to make this move? 'Cause if you think about it, the circumstances were very strange. 2 years after their relocation, a new Charlotte team popped up in the same area. That was the Bobcats. So even though the city lost their team, they got it back very quickly. Was this all planned from the start? What happened? How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and without further ado, let's begin. So, where do we start? First, let's go back to 2002. This was the last year the original Charlotte Hornets played in Charlotte, before relocating. The situations surrounding the move were complicated, to say the least. But let's first take a look at the team itself. They just won 44 games and reached the Eastern Conference semifinals. They had 2 all-star caliber players, Baron Davis and Jamal Mashburn, and a very solid roster from top to bottom. Right before relocating, the team was a legitimate playoff team, a competent one too. That's very rare to see. Typically when any team relocates, it's cause they're usually really bad and they need a change of scenery. That's not the case for the Hornets. They were pretty damn good, and yet still not good enough to grab the attention of fans. Despite being the 4th seed of the Eastern Conference, the Hornets had the lowest attendance in the entire league, with an average of just 11,000 fans attending their home games. That's brutal. And considering Charlotte is a small market city, they were operating on significant losses. They just weren't generating enough revenue. The key person in this has always been George Shinn, the owner. Ever since he founded the team, he was trying to move the team elsewhere, to the dismay of fans. Even back in 1990, shortly after he created the franchise, a newspaper excerpt wrote about Shinn's desire to move the city to South Carolina, of all places. Really, South Carolina? Shinn wanted a very favorable lease to play in Charlotte Coliseum, but the owners of the stadium felt like he was being too cheap. Shinn would renew the lease year after year, and if they were charging too much for the team to play there, then he threatened to move the team out of Charlotte. An authority member of Charlotte Coliseum stated, "George Shinn is a greedy, selfish man." And he really hated how he was trying to get so much leverage. By the late 90s, he even tried to get the city of Charlotte to build a new arena, as he felt like Charlotte Coliseum was too outdated. Shinn also made a bid to relocate the Hornets to Memphis, but eventually that was granted to Vancouver. Around this time, Shinn sparked even more controversy, as a lady in Charlotte claimed that he kidnapped and sexually assaulted her, and the trial became a huge news headline across the city. This tarnished Shinn's reputation even further, and the fans were incredibly angry at him and the city of Charlotte as well. Also, apparently, Shinn's efforts to build a new stadium was rejected by the voters, mainly because even though it's supposed to bring in revenue and create jobs, at the time the city of Charlotte vetoed a bill that would raise minimum wages to $9 per hour. So as a result, the residents of that area fiercely voted against the construction of a new arena, if they weren't guaranteed at least a livable wage from working there. A massive anti-arena campaign was launched. The main message the citizens enforced was, "Why should we support millionaire basketball players and owners if the city does nothing to help the working poor?" In 2002, a city council member stated how obvious and visible the animosity towards Shinn was. The dislike, the hatred for George in this town right now is incredible. That's what this is all about. The people here still love the team, but the dislike for George is a stronger emotion. I don't agree with it, but I see it every day, and it's probably going to cost us all in the long run. The players disliked him too, and this might have had something to do with many of their stars wanting to leave. When Alonzo Mourning talked about this and why he left, he stated, "But it wasn't the team or the players. It's the dislike of the owner. It's sad in a way. All the problems they're having now are just a reflection of people's attitudes toward him." However, despite the voters rejecting Shinn's attempts to build a new arena, Charlotte's leaders tried to circumvent the vote and build the stadium anyway, in uptown Charlotte. This brought even more anger, because now everyone thought Shinn paid off the city council to do this for him, and that there was some kind of conspiracy going on or something. Either way, it didn't matter. It was later discovered that Shinn issued an ultimatum for the city: build the new arena, or I'll move the Hornets out of here. The city council had no choice. If they lost the team, that would drastically hurt the entire city economically. Now, this is starting to become a huge problem for the NBA as well. While the NBA has always tried to protect its owners, they typically don't want to get involved in the politics of the city they're playing in. If the NBA stepped in and forced Charlotte to stop building the arena, then Shinn and other owners would be furious that the NBA is intervening against their business interests. If the NBA stepped in and forced Shinn to relocate the team, the city of Charlotte will be angry, and the fans too. They'd be upset they're losing their team. So they came up with a resolution. Shinn will be allowed to relocate the team, but Charlotte was promised to get a new team within 2 years, which they did. This was the best solution they could do, and it worked out well for both parties. Also, a new arena did in fact get built, which would eventually become the Spectrum Center. On May 10, 2002, the NBA officially approved the relocation of the Charlotte Hornets to New Orleans. And so, the Charlotte Hornets became the New Orleans Hornets. Their roster basically remained the same, so they continued to make the playoffs for the next few years. Technically, when this relocation happened, the New Orleans Hornets became a brand new franchise, as their history in Charlotte is no longer with them. It leads to somewhat of an awkward situation, because in the official NBA records, New Orleans is registered as a 2002 expansion team, even though they're supposed to be the continuation of the Charlotte Hornets. Anyway, the NBA followed through with this plan. 2 years later, the Charlotte Bobcats came to fruition. The city of Charlotte got another NBA team, and everyone was happy. Sort of. For George Shinn, most people don't know this, but he was one of the poorest NBA owners in the league. I mean, he's not poor, but comparatively speaking, his net worth was much lower than most other owners. It was approximately $100 million. Initially, the move was successful. The team went from averaging 11,000 fans a game to nearly 16,000 fans a game. Unfortunately, over the years, the attendance in New Orleans dropped off too. They traded away some of their franchise players, and even after drafting Chris Paul and David West, even becoming legit title contenders for a few years there, the team was still struggling with attendance. In some years, Shinn was eating up the losses. There was also a short period of time when the team had to temporarily relocate to Oklahoma City because of Hurricane Katrina and the devastation it caused. OKC fans were absolutely crazy for the team. This kinda intrigued Shinn, as now he wanted to relocate the team to OKC, but he didn't want to go through the headache of everything that happened in Charlotte again. Anyway, in the 2007-8 season, the Hornets won 56 games, but they were still near the bottom in attendance, 26th out of all 30 teams in fact. It was the first time we've heard Shinn publicly express regrets. When New Orleans was struggling financially with him at the helm, this really crushed him, and he didn't want to make the same mistake he did in Charlotte. I've made enough mistakes in my life. I'm not going to make one here. This city needs us here. We're going to make this New Orleans thing work." Sadly, it didn't work out. In 2010, the revenue numbers were not improving, but no other owners wanted to purchase the Hornets, so Shinn sold the team to the NBA itself. For a few years, the NBA directly owned the Hornets. Anyway, that sums up the story of how the original Charlotte Hornets got relocated to New Orleans. In his tenure, Shinn was one of the most hated people in the entire state, and it was for a good reason too. However, besides the sexual assault report, I don't think there was much he could do. With the revenue tanking, Shinn needed to find some way to keep the team afloat. He never wanted to betray the fans in Charlotte, but even if he did, the NBA still guaranteed that they'd get a new team anyway, which they got 2 years later. I mean, that's better than what happened to Seattle. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.